A struggling mechanic pulls over to help a stranger fix her flat tire on a rainy night, unaware that this simple act of kindness will soon bring her back, this time driving a Lamborghini with an offer that will change his life forever. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? Lucas Bennett gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles pale, as he guided his rusty pickup through sheets of relentless rain. The old wipers struggled against the downpour, barely clearing his view of the dark road ahead. Behind him loomed Bennett's auto shop, his life, his pride, and now his deepest worry. Bills piled higher each day, stacked in forgotten corners, haunting reminders of a dream that teetered dangerously close to collapse. The radio crackled with static, barely audible beneath the rhythmic drumming of the rain against the windshield. Lucas sighed heavily, eyes weary from a day of exhausting repairs and disappointed customers who couldn't afford more than patchwork fixes. Just a little further, he thought, comforting himself with visions of his modest apartment and warm food awaiting him. But suddenly, his headlights sliced through the gloom to reveal a car stopped awkwardly at the roadside, hazard lights blinking like a faint pulse in the darkness. Lucas hesitated. It would be easy to drive by. After all, wasn't his day long enough? But something in him resisted. The part of him shaped by a mother who had always taught him kindness mattered most when it was hardest. With a resigned sigh, he slowed, pulling up behind the sleek sedan that seemed strangely out of place on this stretch of road. He stepped out, instantly soaked as the storm lashed his body. Approaching the stranded car, he spotted a woman standing helplessly beside it. She clutched her phone, her posture tense and frustrated, rain streaking down her face, blending with tears she fought to hold back. "You all right?" Lucas called over the storm. She spun, startled at first, then relieved. "Flat tire," she admitted, her voice strained, exhaustion clear beneath a veneer of forced calmness. And roadside assistance said it'll be an hour at least. Lucas glanced toward the tire, completely shredded, then back at her, noticing her thin coat and trembling shoulders. "That's too long in this storm," he said firmly. "I'll handle it." She looked surprised, eyes narrowing cautiously as if unsure whether to trust him. "Are you sure? I don't want to trouble you?" He waved away her concern, already heading back to his truck for tools. "Trouble?" He offered a gentle smile, despite the downpour. "It's no trouble. Everyone needs help sometimes." Lucas retrieved his toolbox from the truck, the cold rain soaking through his jacket. But he ignored the discomfort. Kneeling down beside the woman's car, he set to work immediately, his experienced hands moving with practiced efficiency. The rain hammered relentlessly, creating small rivers along the pavement beneath him, but he pushed away thoughts of exhaustion. This woman needed help, and he had promised himself long ago that he would never turn his back on someone in trouble. As he worked, the woman watched quietly, her arms crossed tight over her chest to ward off the chill. Finally, as if deciding she could trust him, she stepped closer, shielding her eyes from the rain. "Thank you," she called out, her voice genuine and softer now. "You didn't have to stop." Lucas paused briefly, offering a tired but reassuring smile. "Couldn't just leave you stranded out here," he said simply, wiping rainwater from his eyes. "Besides, looks like you had enough bad luck for one day." She laughed softly, the sound almost lost beneath the relentless storm, but Lucas heard it, catching something genuine in its tone. "You have no idea," she admitted, her voice cracking just slightly. "It's been one of those days that tests your faith in humanity." Lucas tightened the final lug nut, then stood brushing his muddy palms against his jeans. He met her gaze gently, sensing beneath her polished exterior a vulnerability she fought hard to hide. Her eyes were bright, intelligent, but tired, the kind of exhaustion that went deeper than a mere flat tire. "Well," Lucas said, closing his toolbox and stepping back to give her space, "hopefully this restores a little of your faith." For a long moment she just looked at him, seemingly trying to understand why someone would go so far out of their way to help without expecting anything in return. Rainwater streamed down her face, mingling with fresh tears that she quickly wiped away, embarrassed yet touched. "It does," she whispered softly. "More than you know." Lucas opened her car door, waiting as she slipped behind the wheel, noticing now the understated luxury of the vehicle. She hesitated before starting the engine, looking up at him through the downpour. "At least tell me your name," she called softly.
"Lucas," he replied, offering a small wave. "Lucas Bennett." "I'm Olivia," she answered, her smile gentle, genuine despite her obvious exhaustion. "Olivia Hart. I won't forget this." As she drove off into the stormy night, Lucas stood for a moment, watching the glowing taillights vanish into the darkness, unaware that this brief encounter, this simple act of kindness, had already begun to set his life on a course he never could have imagined. Lucas stood motionless as the rain slowed to a steady drizzle, soaking through his clothes and seeping into his bones. He watched Olivia settle into her seat, a gentle smile of gratitude still lingering softly on her lips. She reached into her designer handbag and withdrew a slender leather wallet, quickly pulling out several bills. Lucas, sensing what she intended, instinctively raised his hand, politely shaking his head. "No, please, I insist," Olivia protested warmly. Her voice carried a soft elegance, a tone Lucas wasn't accustomed to hearing around Maplewood. "You've done more than enough." Lucas offered a weary but genuine smile. "Thanks, but no. You needed help, and I gave it. That's payment enough for me." Olivia hesitated, clearly unaccustomed to someone turning down her generosity so genuinely. The subtle crease of confusion between her brows told Lucas that she wasn't used to kindness without conditions. She slowly returned the money to her wallet, regarding him with new, sincere curiosity. "You're different, Lucas Bennett," she said quietly, almost as though she spoke to herself. Her gaze lingered on his grease-stained jacket, the exhaustion etched into his features, yet kindness radiating from his tired eyes. Not many people would help a total stranger on a night like this, especially without asking for something in return. Lucas simply shrugged, modestly dismissing the praise. "We're all strangers till we're not. Helping someone out just makes the world a little less lonely." She tilted her head slightly, eyes softening with surprise. His sincerity seemed to catch her off guard. The quiet intensity between them stretched for a moment, filled with the gentle patter of fading rain and the distant hum of occasional cars passing along the lonely road. Olivia started the engine, the low purr of the luxury sedan filling the silence. "Thank you, Lucas," she said softly, her voice carrying more than simple gratitude. "You're a good man. I won't forget this kindness." Before he could respond, she had pulled away, the taillight slowly disappearing into the foggy distance, leaving Lucas standing alone in the quiet darkness. He watched her go, an odd sense of longing and intrigue stirring within him. Who was she? Where was she going? And why? Despite knowing he'd likely never see her again, did he feel an unshakable sense of connection? Shaking his head at the absurdity of his thoughts, Lucas climbed back into his truck, driving away with an unsettled feeling deep in his chest. Little did he know, this brief meeting, this act of kindness under a rainy night sky, was merely the first page in a story he never saw coming. The garage doors rattled open with a tired groan as Lucas stepped inside, the morning sunlight streaming through cracked windows and catching on dusty metal shelves lined with spare parts. Bennett's auto had once been vibrant, bustling with energy and optimism. Now it was a quiet place, filled mostly with echoes of better days and heavy silence, broken only by the hum of the old fluorescent lights overhead. Lucas set down his toolbox heavily on the bench, his eyes falling instinctively to the growing stack of unopened envelopes. The menacing red-stamped words like "past due" and "final notice" clearly visible beneath the dull morning sun. He sighed deeply,
feeling the weight of responsibility press on him like an anchor. The repair last night had cost him nothing except time, but time was a currency Lucas barely had these days. From the back office, he heard a faint shuffle of footsteps, then saw Alex emerge, backpack slung casually over one shoulder. Alex, 16 and full of dreams far bigger than this failing garage, smiled hesitantly. Lucas quickly masked his worries behind a reassuring grin. "Morning," Alex said, his voice warm but cautious, eyes flickering briefly toward the stack of bills. He tried hiding his concern, but Lucas caught it. He always did. "Hey, buddy," Lucas responded lightly, keeping his tone upbeat. "Heading out early?" Alex nodded, shifting slightly as if uncomfortable. "Yeah, got an early class. Counselor says if I stay on track, scholarships might be a real shot." His voice wavered with cautious hope. "She says my grades are good enough to get me somewhere, somewhere better." Lucas swallowed hard, pride swelling beneath the ache in his chest. He'd promised their parents before the accident he'd keep Alex safe, protected, and away from the same struggles that had defined his own life. Yet, standing in this empty garage, he felt the cold grip of doubt claw at his resolve. "You'll make it, Alex," Lucas assured firmly, forcing confidence into his voice. "I'll figure things out here. You just focus on school." Alex hesitated, glancing once more toward the envelopes, the stack that Lucas had carefully pushed aside, as if ignoring them might somehow erase the reality of their mounting troubles. "You sure everything's okay here?" Alex finally asked, the hesitation in his tone betraying his anxiety. Lucas crossed the distance between them, placing a reassuring hand firmly on his brother's shoulder. "We're good. This is my job to worry about, not yours. Got it?" Alex studied his brother carefully before finally nodding, the trust in his eyes hitting Lucas harder than any overdue bill ever could. Watching Alex disappear down the street toward the bus stop, Lucas felt his stomach twist with uncertainty. He turned back toward the lonely emptiness of the shop, realizing that dreams, both Alex's and his own, depended on his ability to hold this crumbling business together, one day at a time. Lucas wiped grease-stained hands on a worn rag, stepping outside the garage into the warmth of late-afternoon sunlight. Another long day spent wrestling rusted parts and patching old engines. The weight of overdue bills still lingered heavily in his mind, but he pushed those thoughts aside for a moment, grateful simply for the quiet. Suddenly, the peaceful silence of Maplewood was broken by the distinct, throaty roar of an engine, a sound unlike anything he'd ever heard on these streets. He turned sharply toward the noise, squinting, as sunlight bounced off polished metal and sleek curves, momentarily blinding him. When the vehicle finally came into view, Lucas's heart nearly stopped. A stunning Lamborghini glided toward him, glossy black paint gleaming like liquid night, rims polished to perfection. Lucas stared, frozen in disbelief. Cars like this didn't belong anywhere near his humble garage. They belonged in the movies or behind velvet ropes, admired from afar. The car eased smoothly into his driveway, its engine falling silent, leaving a surreal quiet behind. As the door swung open, Lucas felt his breath catch sharply in his chest. Olivia Hart stepped out, looking every bit as elegant and composed as the night he'd helped her in the rain, but somehow even more powerful now, more commanding, as though she belonged to an entirely different world. "Lucas Bennett," she greeted him warmly, smiling gently as she closed the Lamborghini's door with practiced grace. "It's good to see you again." Lucas finally remembered how to move, approaching her hesitantly, confusion clear on his face. "Olivia," he stammered, unable to fully conceal his shock. "I didn't think you'd be back. At least, not like this." He gestured weakly toward the Lamborghini, disbelief etched into his features. Olivia's smile deepened, amused yet sincere. "I wanted to see you under better circumstances," she explained, stepping closer. Her eyes scanned his humble garage thoughtfully before returning to his stunned expression. "After what you did for me, I couldn't just disappear." Lucas shook his head slowly, still struggling to grasp the surreal sight before him. "I just changed a tire, Olivia," he said softly, confusion mixing with cautious curiosity. "It wasn't a big deal." "It was to me," she replied firmly, her voice carrying unexpected intensity. "You showed me genuine kindness, Lucas. That's rare, especially in my world." Her eyes locked onto his, full of unspoken meaning, sincerity radiating from her gentle gaze. Lucas stood quietly, overwhelmed, heart pounding wildly. What did this powerful, graceful woman want from someone like him? Her sudden reappearance raised more questions than answers, but deep down, beneath his confusion, curiosity sparked brightly. "Well," Olivia continued, her voice steady but layered with purpose, "I'm here because I have an offer to discuss. Something I think you'll want to hear." Lucas swallowed hard, realizing instantly his life was about to change in ways he'd never dared imagine. Lucas stared at Olivia, his mind spinning wildly as he struggled to make sense of her presence in front of his modest garage. The Lamborghini, its sleek silhouette almost surreal beneath the fading daylight, seemed entirely out of place among the worn tools and oil-stained concrete. Olivia's calm, steady gaze held his attention, a gentle but powerful intensity behind her eyes that Lucas was now beginning to understand. "I don't understand," he finally managed to say, voice thick with confusion. "You drove all the way back here just to—" "What exactly? To thank me again for a simple flat tire?" Olivia smiled patiently, stepping closer and allowing a brief silence to linger between them. When she spoke again, her voice was clear, steady, and carefully measured, carrying authority without sacrificing warmth. "No, Lucas. I came back because what you did that night means far more to me than you realize." Her eyes softened as she studied him, noticing his uncertainty. "I'm Olivia Hart, Lucas, CEO of Hart Automotive." Lucas felt as if the ground beneath him had tilted sharply. He knew that name. Everyone who worked around cars knew that name. Hart Automotive wasn't just a successful business, it was an empire. Luxury cars, cutting-edge technology, multi-million-dollar concepts. Olivia Hart wasn't just successful, she was automotive royalty. The realization hit him hard. He thought back to their first meeting in the relentless rain, how he'd treated her like anyone else, just another person in need. He'd refused payment, unaware that the woman he'd helped could have effortlessly solved all of his financial worries. His stomach twisted with unease, but beneath the discomfort was something else, something he couldn't fully identify yet. Respect, curiosity, admiration, perhaps all three. "You're the Olivia Hart," he repeated softly, almost to himself, still processing. "I've been reading articles about your cars for years. Your designs are legendary." Olivia nodded gently, modestly accepting the praise, though Lucas could see a trace of vulnerability hiding just beneath her polished exterior. "My company is known for luxury, innovation, exclusivity," she acknowledged, her voice steady. "But what you did that night, Lucas, that simple act of genuine kindness, is something rare in my world. It's something money can't buy." Lucas swallowed hard, his heartbeat thundering now. He struggled to maintain his composure. "I had no idea." She stepped even closer, lowering her voice slightly, sincerity pouring through each carefully chosen word. "Exactly. And that's why it mattered so much to me. Because you didn't know. You didn't care who I was. You simply helped." Lucas met her gaze directly, feeling something powerful shift inside him, a profound respect deepening into intrigue. Standing face to face with the woman behind one of the most respected automotive empires in the world, Lucas realized one thing clearly. This was no longer about a flat tire or a simple act of kindness. This was about to become far bigger than anything he'd ever imagined. Lucas felt the air rush from his lungs as Olivia's words hung between them. The weight of what she had just revealed pressed down on him heavily. CEO of Hart Automotive, he still struggled to wrap his mind around the reality. Olivia watched him quietly, her gaze unwavering, yet filled with a quiet compassion, as if she understood the storm brewing behind his eyes. "Lucas," she said softly, her voice steady and reassuring. There's a reason I came back here today, beyond just gratitude. Lucas steadied himself, drawing a deep breath as he nodded slowly. I'm listening. She moved closer, the intensity of her gaze deepening as she spoke again. I need someone with your talents, your work ethic, your integrity. I'm not looking for flashy resumes. I'm looking for a person I can trust completely. She paused deliberately, holding his eyes. I'm offering you the position of head technician at Hart Automotive. You'll lead our team, oversee major projects, handle some of the most exclusive cars in the industry. Lucas's heart pounded wildly, disbelief echoing loudly in his mind. His eyes drifted involuntarily toward the rust-stained walls of his struggling garage, the flickering lights, and the scattered tools, his own small world, miles apart from Olivia's sleek, powerful universe. A quiet voice inside him whispered words of doubt. He didn't belong there, not among billion-dollar cars and elite clientele. Olivia, Lucas finally said, his voice strained and full of hesitation. I appreciate what you're offering, but I don't know if someone like me can fit into that world. Luxury cars, boardrooms, corporate meetings. I'm just a mechanic who loves fixing things. You need someone polished, someone who speaks your language. Olivia stepped forward, shaking her head gently, silencing his doubts. No, Lucas, you're exactly who I need. I'm surrounded every day by people who say what they think I want to hear. But you speak from the heart. You're honest, genuine. I need someone brave enough to tell me the truth, even when it's not comfortable. He stared at her, the sincerity radiating from her so strongly that he felt something inside him shift. Olivia's eyes were steady and bright, yet beneath her confident surface he caught a glimpse of vulnerability. She wasn't just offering him a job, she was offering him trust, respect, an entirely new life. Still, uncertainty lingered, holding him back. It's a big risk, Lucas admitted softly, eyes flickering down as if ashamed to voice his fears aloud. I've never done anything like this. Olivia smiled warmly, gently reaching out and placing a reassuring hand on his arm. Her touch was gentle, yet firm enough to ground him in this surreal moment. Maybe it's exactly the kind of risk you deserve, she murmured gently. Think about it. Take your time. But I want you, Lucas Bennett. The question is, do you want this too? Lucas sat at the small kitchen table later that evening, his fingers restlessly tracing the grain of the worn wood. The distant hum of traffic filtered softly through the open window, mingling with the muffled sound of Alex rustling through papers at the opposite end of the table. Olivia's offer echoed loudly in his thoughts. A thrilling yet intimidating opportunity he still struggled to fully comprehend. Finally, he cleared his throat, drawing Alex's attention away from his homework. I got an offer today, Lucas said, his voice quiet, filled with both excitement and caution. A job offer. Alex's eyes widened with surprise and curiosity as he put down his pencil. Really? That's great. Where her? Lucas hesitated, unsure how Alex might react. Hart Automotive, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, as their head technician. For a moment, silence filled the space between them, thick and heavy. Lucas watched his brother closely, noting the rapid flicker of emotions, shock, disbelief, and then, slowly, cautious hope. You're kidding, Alex finally said, leaning forward intently. Lucas, that's huge. Hart Automotive? As in the Hart Automotive? Lucas nodded slowly. Yeah, Olivia Hart herself offered it. Came by the garage today. Alex stared at him, mouth slightly open. Olivia Hart? She personally offered you the job? Lucas nodded again, his uncertainty still evident. It's an incredible opportunity, Alex, but... His voice trailed off, revealing the deep-rooted doubts gnawing at him. I don't know if I belong there. Their world, it's completely different. High-end cars, million-dollar clients, the pressure. It's a whole new level. Alex shook his head firmly, determination burning fiercely in his eyes. You absolutely belong there, Lucas, he said earnestly. You're the hardest worker I know. You've been holding this family together for years, sacrificing everything so I can chase my dreams. Maybe now it's your turn." Lucas felt a sharp ache tighten his chest at Alex's words. His brother's unwavering belief in him had always been his strength, his motivation. But could he really step into Olivia Hart's glamorous world without losing who he was? Alex seemed to sense Lucas's hesitation. He leaned closer, his voice softer, but just as intense. "Listen, you've always told me not to let fear hold me back. Why should it be any different for you? This isn't just about you, Lucas. It's about our future. It's a chance for something better, maybe even a fresh start. You deserve this. We both do." Lucas exhaled slowly, absorbing Alex's words deeply into his heart. Seeing his younger brother's unwavering trust, feeling his strength, Lucas knew Alex was right. This wasn't just about him. It was about the dreams he carried, not only for himself, but for Alex as well. Lucas met Alex's gaze squarely, determination finally beginning to ignite within him. "You really think I can do this?" Alex smiled confidently, his expression warm and proud. "I don't just think it. I know it." Lucas paced restlessly inside the empty garage, each step echoing off the familiar concrete walls. The clock above the workbench ticked loudly, measuring his hesitation with every passing second. Outside, evening had settled in quietly, bathing the workshop in shades of soft gold and shadowy blues. Olivia's business card, with its neat, elegant lettering, sat heavily in his pocket, feeling impossibly significant despite its small size. He had hardly slept the previous night, torn between fear and hope, uncertain whether this new world would truly accept someone like him. His whole life had been confined to simple routines, long days under cars, nights spent worrying about bills and Alex's future. Olivia's offer promised security, excitement, and a chance to prove himself, but at what cost? Would he lose himself, become someone he wouldn't recognize? Just then, his phone vibrated gently in his pocket. He glanced down to see a message from Alex, short but powerful. "I believe in you. It's your turn to chase a dream." Lucas's throat tightened as he reread the simple words, realizing he had his answer. Alex deserved better. Lucas deserved better. It was time to finally embrace change, even if it terrified him. Taking a deep, steadying breath, he pulled out Olivia's card, staring at the elegant logo of Hart Automotive. He dialed her number, heart pounding fiercely against his chest. It rang twice before she answered, her voice calm and warm on the other end. "Olivia Hart." "Olivia," Lucas began, his voice firm despite the nervous tremor that lingered beneath the surface. "It's Lucas. I've given your offer a lot of thought." There was a slight pause, then Olivia's voice softened with genuine anticipation. "And?" Lucas hesitated only briefly, feeling the enormity of the moment pressing on his shoulders. "I accept," he finally said, his voice steady and resolute. "I'll take the job." For a moment, Olivia remained silent, and Lucas worried that perhaps he'd misunderstood the seriousness of her offer. Then her gentle, relieved laughter flowed through the line. "You have no idea how glad I am to hear that, Lucas. I know it's not an easy decision, but trust me, this is going to change your life." Lucas nodded slowly to himself, feeling a weight begin to lift from his chest, replaced by cautious hope. "I trust you, Olivia, and I'm ready." "I'll have everything arranged. You won't regret this," she assured him warmly. "Welcome to Hart Automotive, Lucas Bennett." As he hung up the phone, Lucas stood alone in the fading daylight, his heart hammering with excitement and nerves, wondering what awaited him beyond these familiar walls. But for the first time in years, he allowed himself to truly believe in the possibility of something more than just survival, more than just scraping by. He finally allowed himself to dream again. Lucas pulled into the gleaming parking lot of Hart Automotive, the morning sunlight reflecting sharply off the towering glass facade. The immaculate rows of luxury vehicles were a world away from his battered truck, rusted fender, and paint that had long faded to dullness. His pulse quickened as he shut off the engine, a wave of nerves sweeping over him as he stepped onto the pristine asphalt. He straightened the collar of his best button-up shirt, suddenly painfully aware of the small grease stains still stubbornly clinging to his fingertips. Taking a deep breath, he walked toward the facility's entrance, his heart hammering louder with each step. The inside was even more intimidating, vast, brightly lit, and meticulously polished. Sleek, futuristic machines lined the walls, their chrome surfaces shining like mirrors. Men and women in neatly pressed suits and crisp uniforms hurried past him, their footsteps echoing with the purposeful rhythm of efficiency. Lucas hesitated for a moment, feeling conspicuously out of place, his humble roots painfully evident against this backdrop of sophistication. "You must be Lucas Bennett," a smooth, professional voice greeted from his left. Lucas turned sharply, meeting the cool gaze of a sharply dressed man, clearly senior management. "Marcus Allen," the man introduced himself, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "Senior technician here. Olivia speaks highly of you." Lucas shook his hand firmly, noting the subtle skepticism behind Marcus's polite smile. "Nice to meet you," he managed, his voice carefully even. Marcus scanned him briefly, his expression hardening slightly at the grease beneath Lucas's fingernails and his casual attire. "Olivia has high expectations," Marcus continued smoothly, "and Hart Automotive demands the best. I'm curious to see how you'll handle yourself here." Lucas felt his stomach twist slightly at the quiet challenge in Marcus's voice. Clearly, he was already being sized up, judged. He forced himself to stand straighter, meeting Marcus's doubtful gaze directly. "I won't disappoint," Lucas replied firmly, more confident than he felt. Marcus gave a small, cool smile. "We'll see," he responded cryptically, before walking away, leaving Lucas standing alone, a wave of self-doubt momentarily washing over him. Before he could second-guess himself further, Olivia approached, smiling warmly, in a way that eased some of the anxiety tightening Lucas's chest. "Lucas," she greeted him warmly, her sincerity grounding him. "I'm glad you're here." Her presence, calm and reassuring, steadied him. Lucas forced himself to return her smile, pushing down the lingering insecurity stirred by Marcus's words. "Me too," he answered, more certain now. "I'm ready to get started." Olivia nodded approvingly, guiding him deeper into the heart of the facility. Lucas followed, determination rising with each step, his resolve solidifying. Yes, he was out of place here. Yes, it was intimidating. But he had earned this chance, and he wouldn't let fear keep him from proving he belonged. Lucas spent his first day moving carefully among the gleaming machines and polished tools, acutely aware of every sideways glance and hushed conversation from nearby technicians. Each whispered remark felt like a sharp needle, pricking at the edges of his confidence. Even though Olivia had made her belief in him clear, he quickly discovered that her trust alone wouldn't immediately earn him the respect of her seasoned employees. By mid-afternoon, Lucas was elbows deep in a diagnostic test, carefully inspecting the internal mechanics of a pristine Rolls-Royce. The vehicle was immaculate and far more advanced than anything he'd ever touched in his modest garage. Yet, despite his nerves, Lucas's skilled hands moved with practiced ease, gaining confidence with each precise adjustment. He was carefully reassembling the engine cover when Marcus's voice cut through the busy workshop, intentionally loud and dripping with skepticism. "Hope you're taking notes, everyone," Marcus called out, deliberately casual as he approached. "Seems we're about to witness how things are done in the small-town style, Senate." Laughter rippled through a small cluster of technicians nearby. Lucas stiffened, feeling heat rise along his neck, his jaw tightening instinctively. He straightened slowly, turning to face Marcus directly, forcing his voice to remain steady despite his growing frustration. "Something you'd like to say, Marcus?" Lucas asked calmly, meeting the senior technician's cool, scrutinizing gaze. Marcus raised an eyebrow mockingly, crossing his arms as he stepped closer. "Actually, yeah. Just wondering how exactly you plan to keep up here. You've clearly got Olivia fooled, but let's see if you can convince the rest of us. We don't cut corners here." Lucas felt a flare of anger spark sharply within him, but he pushed it back reminding himself of why Olivia had brought him here in the first place. He couldn't allow Marcus's biting criticism to unravel his composure. Not now, not here. "I get it," Lucas replied steadily, eyes unwavering. "You don't think I belong. But Olivia trusted me with this job for a reason, and I don't intend to prove her wrong or disappoint the people counting on me." Marcus's expression hardened, irritation flashing briefly behind his careful mask. "We'll see about that, won't we?" he said coolly, voice laced with quiet disdain. "Because right now, all I see is someone out of his depth. If it were my call, you wouldn't have even made it through the door." Marcus walked away without another glance, leaving Lucas standing alone beside the Rolls-Royce, tension thick in the air. Lucas glanced around, feeling every set of eyes upon him, some curious, some sympathetic, others clearly siding with Marcus's skepticism. As he returned to his work, Lucas's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from determination. Marcus had openly challenged his place here, questioned his worth. But Lucas had faced doubt and criticism before. Now, more than ever, he was determined to silence the whispers and prove not only to Marcus but to himself that he belonged exactly where Olivia believed he did. The next morning, tension still hung heavily in the air, settling into Lucas's shoulders as he stepped into the pristine workshop. Marcus's challenge from the day before echoed relentlessly in his mind, each word sharpening his resolve. He knew he had to silence the doubts, not just Marcus's, but his own. Just as he began sorting through diagnostic tools, the loud, agitated voice of Marcus rang clearly from the service bay. Lucas turned sharply, noticing a rare Lamborghini Aventador, its sleek yellow frame stark against the pristine workshop floor. Marcus stood by, his face tight with frustration, hands clenched in irritation. "This is ridiculous," Marcus growled loudly. "This Aventador was supposed to be finished hours ago. Olivia needs it delivered today. It's for a major client. None of us can pinpoint the issue." Technicians clustered nervously around Marcus, their expressions equally troubled. Lucas hesitated, sensing an opportunity, but acutely aware of the risk. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, raising his voice just enough to cut through the worried murmurs. "Mind if I take a look?" Marcus turned sharply, eyebrows raised incredulously. "You think you can fix this? This isn't your average pickup truck. This car is worth more than your entire garage." Ignoring the biting remark, Lucas calmly walked over, silently inspecting the engine. Under the weight of everyone's doubtful eyes, his heart hammered fiercely, but he steadied his breathing. Gently, methodically, he traced wires, ran diagnostics, and then, sensing something the others had missed, he paused. "It's electrical," Lucas said confidently, drawing curious glances from the crowd around him. Marcus scoffed skeptically, but Lucas continued calmly, his voice steady and authoritative. "The wiring harness has a microscopic short, difficult to spot on diagnostics, but it's right here." He carefully pointed to a concealed spot beneath the engine cover. Marcus stepped forward, clearly skeptical but intrigued, leaning in close. Sure enough, under Lucas's careful guidance, he noticed the tiny but critical flaw, a barely visible pinch in the wiring. Marcus straightened, stunned disbelief etched into his expression. Without hesitation, Lucas grabbed tools and worked swiftly, his movements precise, efficient, and confident. The room fell completely silent, the gathered technicians watching, impressed despite themselves, as Lucas expertly repaired the damaged harness. When Lucas finally straightened, wiping his hands calmly on a clean cloth, he started the ignition. The Aventador roared powerfully to life, its engine purring perfectly, silencing every whisper in the workshop. A slow, reluctant applause rippled through the crowd, cautious but sincere. Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly, clearly conflicted, but he offered a small, begrudging nod, stepping away without further criticism. At that moment, Lucas caught Olivia watching quietly from the doorway. Pride and warmth filled her gaze, a gentle smile curving her lips. She gave him an approving nod, wordlessly conveying everything Lucas needed to hear. Lucas exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. He'd faced the challenge, proved Marcus wrong, and above all, he'd finally begun to believe in himself. For the first time since walking through these doors, Lucas truly felt like he belonged. The workshop was quiet, lit only by the gentle glow of lamps placed strategically around the polished floor. Outside, darkness cloaked the city, the hum of traffic reduced to a faint whisper. Lucas sat at the workbench, carefully organizing a set of specialized tools, savoring the rare moment of peace. The silence was suddenly broken by the soft click of heels against concrete, the rhythm slow, measured, almost thoughtful. He glanced up to find Olivia stepping into the light, her tailored suit replaced with casual jeans and a loose sweater, her usual confident demeanor softened by quiet vulnerability. He realized with surprise that it was the first time he'd seen her look anything other than perfectly composed and unshakably professional. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked softly, a small, knowing smile on her lips. Lucas shook his head, slightly, setting down a wrench with careful precision. "Guess not. There's something calming about this place at night." Olivia moved closer, leaning gently against the edge of the workbench. The silence lingered comfortably between them for a moment before she spoke again, her voice softer now, carrying the weight of unspoken memories. "You know, my father used to work late nights like this, long after everyone else had gone home. I think it was his way of coping, handling pressure." Lucas studied her quietly, sensing a rare openness in her words. "Pressure from the business?" She nodded, gaze distant, as if reliving memories that felt both comforting and painful. "Yes. He built this company from nothing, Lucas. Everyone assumes it was handed to me, but the truth is, I spent my entire childhood watching him struggle, working himself to exhaustion, trying desperately to keep it afloat." Lucas exhaled softly, feeling a deep sense of connection suddenly grow between them. "Sounds familiar," he admitted quietly, his voice barely more than a whisper. "My dad ran our small family garage back home. It wasn't much, but he gave it everything. He'd spend every waking moment making sure it survived, making sure Alex and I never had to worry. After we lost our parents, I promised I'd never let that legacy die." Olivia's eyes met his, warmth and understanding radiating deeply within them. For the first time, Lucas saw beyond the powerful CEO. He saw a woman who, like him, carried the immense weight of someone else's dreams on her shoulders. "It's strange, isn't it?" she murmured, her voice gentle, reflective. "We come from completely different worlds, and yet somehow our struggles feel exactly the same." Lucas nodded, his expression softening, as he took in her thoughtful words. "Maybe that's why we met, to remind us both we're not alone." Olivia's smile grew tender, vulnerable. "Maybe you're right." Their eyes locked in quiet intensity, words momentarily forgotten. For just an instant, beneath the soft workshop lights, they were simply two people, bound not by differences in wealth or status, but by a shared understanding of sacrifice, struggle, and quiet resilience. As the city outside faded deeper into night, Lucas realized something important had shifted between them, bringing Olivia closer to his heart than he ever anticipated. In that quiet moment, the boundary between employer and employee blurred, replaced by something deeper, something far more meaningful. The days began to blur together, each bringing Lucas closer to Olivia in ways he never expected. They worked side by side, lingering late into the evening, the expansive facility quiet and empty, except for the comforting sounds of tools clicking gently against metal. Lucas grew increasingly aware of how easily their conversations moved beyond work, drifting into personal dreams, regrets, and whispered hopes. Each new revelation drawing them closer, pulling them subtly towards something neither had acknowledged aloud. One evening, Olivia stood quietly next to him at a workbench, her eyes bright with amusement as Lucas recounted an embarrassing mishap from his early days as a mechanic. Her laughter, soft and genuine, filled the silence around them, sending warmth spiraling through Lucas's chest. He paused, catching himself staring a bit too long, heart skipping a beat, when her laughter slowly faded into a gentle, thoughtful silence. "You're not like anyone I've met," Olivia admitted softly, her eyes reflecting quiet admiration. Lucas swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how close she stood, how easy it would be to reach out and bridge the careful space between them. But caution held him back. His voice came out quietly, tinged with uncertainty. "I could say the same about you, Olivia." She tilted her head slightly, her gaze holding his, vulnerability shining beneath the strength she usually wore like armor. "You know, when I first offered you this job, I expected skill. Professionalism. But I didn't expect... You?" Lucas felt his pulse quicken, warmth rising into his cheeks. He chose his words carefully, acutely conscious of the invisible boundary he was so close to crossing. "And is that a good thing?" She smiled softly, gently. "Yes. It's rare. You make me feel real again. Human. I'm grateful." Lucas exhaled quietly, heart pounding. He wanted to tell her she made him feel alive, inspired, that being near her challenged him to become someone better, someone he'd long believed he couldn't be. But uncertainty stopped him again, reminding him sharply of the fragile line between employee and employer. He glanced away briefly, focusing instead on the wrench resting loosely in his hands. "I appreciate that," he finally replied, voice carefully neutral. I don't want to complicate things here. You've given me an opportunity that changed my life, Olivia. I'd never risk losing that, or your trust." Olivia nodded slowly, her expression understanding, yet tinged with quiet disappointment. "I understand," she murmured softly. "Boundaries matter." They stood quietly, the air between them charged, electric with unspoken thoughts, feelings carefully held back. Lucas's heart twisted painfully, yearning warring fiercely with caution. The attraction, delicate but undeniable, now seemed to hang heavily between them, too powerful to ignore, yet too dangerous to openly embrace. As Olivia finally stepped away, her lingering gaze holding a promise of something more, Lucas realized one painful truth. The more he tried to maintain distance, the closer his heart drifted toward her. He knew, deep down, that he was already in too deep, caught in an attraction he couldn't deny, and wasn't sure he wanted to resist. Lucas stood near the entrance of the immaculate workshop, anxiously checking his watch as the morning sun illuminated the polished floors and gleaming cars around him. He couldn't help the nervous flutter in his stomach. Today was important. Today, Alex would see what he'd been working toward, a glimpse into the life that Lucas had promised him. Moments later, Alex stepped cautiously into the facility, eyes wide in awe, his footsteps echoing softly on the pristine floor. His younger brother's jaw dropped slightly as he took in the expansive rows of luxury vehicles, tools Lucas could once only dream of owning, and the polished professionalism of Hart Automotive. "This place is amazing," Alex murmured, almost reverently, spinning slowly to absorb every detail. "I can't believe you actually work here now, Lucas." Lucas smiled warmly, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Feels surreal, doesn't it?" Alex nodded eagerly, eyes bright with pride. "I'm proud of you, really. This place, it's like a different universe." Before Lucas could respond, Olivia approached them, her calm and confident presence instantly capturing Alex's attention. Lucas watched, curious, as Alex straightened slightly, clearly aware of who Olivia was, and eager to make a good impression. "You must be Alex," Olivia greeted warmly, extending a graceful hand. "Lucas speaks about you often." Alex shook her hand enthusiastically, face flushed with excitement. "It's such an honor to meet you, Miss Hart. Thank you so much for giving Lucas this opportunity." Olivia smiled gently, sincerity evident in her eyes. Please call me Olivia. Your brother earned every bit of this. And from what he's told me, you have big dreams yourself." Alex hesitated briefly, glancing uncertainly toward Lucas, who offered him an encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, Alex spoke honestly, his voice filled with a mix of hope and anxiety. "Yeah, college is my goal, but sometimes it feels impossible. Lucas has always supported me, but—" His voice trailed off, vulnerability clear on his young face. Olivia's expression softened, a flash of understanding in her eyes. She stepped closer, voice quietly reassuring. "Listen, Alex, dreams should never feel impossible, not if you're willing to work for them. Hart Automotive has scholarship programs. They're extremely competitive, but from everything I've heard, you might be exactly the kind of candidate we're looking for." Alex's eyes widened sharply, a sudden rush of emotion threatening his careful composure. He glanced quickly at Lucas, his expression conveying 1,000 unspoken hopes. "You really think I could qualify?" Olivia nodded firmly, her conviction steady and unwavering. "Absolutely. Talent and determination deserve opportunities, Alex. I'll personally make sure your application gets considered seriously." Lucas felt his throat tighten, his heart swelling with gratitude and admiration for Olivia's kindness. The way she spoke to Alex, genuine, compassionate, and deeply human, touched him more profoundly than anything she'd done before. Watching Olivia connect with his brother, offer tangible hope, reminded Lucas exactly why he admired her so deeply, why he found himself irresistibly drawn toward her. As Olivia gently guided Alex further into the facility, answering his eager questions with patience and warmth, Lucas stood back quietly, watching. A deep, profound gratitude filled his chest, reminding him sharply of how much had changed since that rainy night. Lucas knew in that moment that this sense of belonging, hope, and possibility was exactly why he'd taken Olivia's offer in the first place. Olivia sat at the head of the sleek conference table, her posture rigid, eyes calmly scanning the faces of the board members assembled before her. The room buzzed with a tense silence, broken only by the faint rustling of papers and the occasional uncomfortable cough. She had faced this group countless times before, stood strong against criticisms and doubts, but today felt different, personal. Gerald Whitmore, a senior board member with piercing gray eyes and a demeanor sharpened by years of relentless ambition, cleared his throat loudly, breaking the heavy silence. His voice carried clearly through the room, authoritative and pointed. "Olivia, we called this meeting because we have concerns about recent developments," Gerald began, folding his hands neatly on the polished table. "Specifically, your recent hiring decision involving Lucas Bennett." Olivia felt her jaw tense subtly, her gaze steady but guarded. "Lucas is highly capable," she responded firmly, voice even and calm. "His performance has proven as much." "That may be so," Gerald replied curtly, skepticism clear in his sharp gaze. "But we're concerned about appearances. Rumors have begun circulating about your relationship with him. It's not only unprofessional, it reflects poorly on our company. Our shareholders have questions. We all do." A ripple of agreement traveled around the table, hushed murmurs underscoring the tension thickening in the air. Olivia exhaled slowly, carefully choosing her words, fighting to keep frustration from leaking into her voice. "My relationship with Lucas Bennett is strictly professional," she stated carefully, deliberately. "I hired him for his talent, integrity, and skill, qualities everyone in this room should value." Gerald narrowed his gaze, skepticism etched deeply into his features. "Yet you've personally overseen his integration, Olivia. Late nights spent alone at the facility, visible favoritism, these aren't trivial matters. The board needs assurances your judgment isn't compromised." Olivia's heart raced, heat rising beneath her calm exterior. She felt trapped, unfairly cornered. Gerald was twisting her intentions into something they weren't. Still, she knew showing weakness or frustration would only confirm their suspicions. "I assure you, my judgment remains perfectly sound," she responded coolly, meeting each board member's scrutinizing gaze without wavering. Lucas Bennett's contributions already surpass our expectations. This scrutiny feels unnecessary and, quite frankly, disappointing. Gerald raised an eyebrow, leaning forward slightly, his voice dangerously soft. The board's priority is protecting the reputation and stability of Hart Automotive. Personal relationships, or even rumors thereof, have no place here. We suggest you consider carefully the future of Lucas Bennett within this company, for everyone's sake. Olivia swallowed hard, her composure threatening to break beneath the pressure. The implications were clear. They wanted Lucas gone, but dismissing him meant more than losing a talented employee. It meant surrendering her principles, her autonomy, and betraying the trust they'd carefully built together. As the meeting ended, the board members filed out quietly, leaving Olivia alone at the vast table, burdened by the weight of her decisions. Fear twisted inside her, sharp and cold. She had always navigated the corporate world with confidence, but now her heart was entangled. She knew she couldn't sacrifice Lucas, but defying the board meant risking everything she'd worked so tirelessly to achieve. For the first time in years, Olivia Hart felt deeply uncertain, trapped between duty and her own heart. Lucas stood quietly near the back corner of the workshop, organizing tools as he always did when he needed clarity. The facility buzzed around him with the usual efficiency, technicians and engineers moving swiftly through their routines. But today, something felt different, strained, like static electricity hanging in the air. Lucas sensed it instantly, noticing subtle shifts in how co-workers glanced at him, their eyes lingering just a fraction longer than usual, conversations stopping abruptly when he walked past. He tried to ignore it, focusing intently on the task at hand, but snippets of hushed conversation drifted unmistakably toward him, sharpening the anxiety already churning in his chest. "Heard Olivia personally chose him," whispered a voice nearby. He recognized it as one of Marcus's close associates. "Makes you wonder what's really going on between them." Lucas froze momentarily, the tool he'd been holding slipping from his fingers onto the bench with a loud clatter. His heart quickened as he strained to hear more clearly. "Come on," another technician scoffed quietly. "A guy from nowhere suddenly becomes Olivia Hart's star mechanic overnight? It doesn't add up. Marcus is right. He's out of his league." Anger flared hotly beneath Lucas's careful composure, mingling painfully with shame. These doubts were the same ones he'd battled within himself from the moment Olivia offered him the job. To hear them spoken aloud by his colleagues made the uncertainty sting sharply once again. He glanced sideways, seeing Marcus watching him intently from across the floor, his expression unreadable, yet clearly satisfied that Lucas was hearing everything. Lucas clenched his jaw, feeling the critical weight of everyone's gaze upon him, judging him silently. He knew Marcus had openly questioned his competence, but now the whispers suggested far worse, that he didn't deserve his position, that Olivia's personal feelings had clouded her professional judgment. Lucas drew a deep, unsteady breath, forcing himself to keep working, trying desperately to drown out the whispers, but each cutting remark wormed its way deeper into his mind, fueling the insecurities he'd worked so hard to overcome. "He'll crash and burn soon enough," another voice murmured dismissively. "Then Olivia will realize the mistake she made." Lucas felt his fists tighten involuntarily, frustration building dangerously inside him. Part of him wanted to confront them, demand the respect he'd earned through sheer hard work. But deep down, another quieter voice whispered doubts that were becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Maybe they were right. Maybe he didn't belong here. Maybe he had allowed Olivia's kindness to blind him to reality. He stepped away from the workbench, heading toward the exit with heavy footsteps, his pulse racing painfully beneath his skin. As he pushed open the heavy door, stepping into the cool, fresh air, Lucas felt the full weight of his colleagues' words settle upon him. The uncertainty tore at him, making him question everything, his abilities, his decisions, and most painfully, Olivia's trust in him. As he stood there, breathing deeply, trying to quiet the storm inside him, Lucas realized that these rumors threatened far more than just his job. They threatened his sense of self, his pride, and the fragile trust he'd built with Olivia. For the first time, he truly wondered if fighting to stay at Hart Automotive was a battle he could ever win. Lucas paced restlessly inside the quiet workshop, the glow from distant city lights casting pale shadows along the sleek rows of cars. He was tense, frustration coiling tightly in his chest, the whispers of his co-workers still echoing loudly in his mind. Suddenly, the sharp click of heels alerted him to Olivia's presence, her graceful figure appearing at the entrance, concern etched clearly across her face. "Lucas," she began softly, stepping carefully toward him, "you've been distant all day. What's going on?"
He exhaled sharply, his gaze meeting hers with undisguised tension. "You didn't hear? Your employees have plenty to say about us, about me. They're questioning why I'm here, Olivia." Her expression darkened slightly, a flicker of hurt crossing her features. "Lucas, people talk. It doesn't matter. Let them." "It matters to me," he snapped back, his voice sharper than intended, the tension finally snapping. "I came here to prove myself, to build something better, but now everyone thinks I'm just some charity project, here because of favoritism or something worse." Olivia's eyes flashed with frustration, her composure wavering beneath his accusation. "That's absurd, and you know it. I hired you for your skill, your integrity, not because of anything personal." "Then why does everyone else see it differently?" Lucas challenged, stepping forward, frustration thickening his voice. "Your board members, your senior technician, they're watching my every move. Marcus is practically waiting for me to fail, and now these rumors, they're not just about me, they're about us." Olivia shook her head firmly, her voice rising slightly. "Lucas, you can't control what people think. You can only control how you respond. I've faced scrutiny my entire career, rumors, doubts, and worse. You either learn to rise above it, or it consumes you." Lucas exhaled sharply, fists clenching involuntarily at his sides, the intensity in his voice growing quieter, rawer. "It's easy for you to say. You've built your reputation, I haven't. One misstep, one rumor, and I'm done. I can't afford to fail Olivia, not for me, and definitely not for Alex." She stepped closer, anger blending with concern. "You think I don't understand pressure? Lucas, every choice I make is scrutinized, analyzed, and second-guessed. Bringing you here wasn't easy, but I did it because I saw potential in you, potential I still see." He shook his head bitterly, eyes blazing. "Potential, or something else. Maybe Marcus and the others are right. Maybe the lines got blurred somewhere, Olivia. Maybe this was a mistake." Olivia flinched visibly, pain flickering across her eyes before quickly masking behind guarded strength. Her voice was low, tense with barely controlled emotion. "Is that what you really believe? That I jeopardized everything I built because of some misguided feeling?" Lucas hesitated, immediately regretting the harshness of his words, his heart twisting painfully. "I don't know what to believe anymore," he whispered, his voice breaking slightly under the weight of his emotions. Olivia stepped back, her eyes suddenly glistening, vulnerability clear beneath her composure. "Well, when you figure it out," she said quietly, pain vibrating softly in her tone, "let me know. Until then, maybe it's best if we keep things strictly professional." She turned swiftly, walking away with determined footsteps, leaving Lucas standing alone in the darkened workshop, heart heavy with regret and uncertainty. The silence left behind was deafening, a harsh reminder of how deeply their worlds had collided and how easily it could all fall apart. Lucas spent hours after the confrontation replaying the harsh exchange in his mind, each word cutting deeper than the last. The emptiness of the workshop, once his sanctuary, felt suffocating now. Determined to make things right, he walked slowly toward Olivia's office, heart heavy with regret and the lingering sting of his earlier words. When he reached her doorway, Lucas paused, surprised to see Olivia sitting alone at her desk, illuminated by the soft glow of a single desk lamp. Her posture, normally strong and confident,
appeared weary, shoulders slumped slightly, her expression distant. For the first time since he'd met her, Olivia Hart looked genuinely vulnerable. He knocked gently, causing her to start slightly. She quickly composed herself, carefully smoothing her expression. As she looked up, though the guarded sadness remained. "Can we talk?" Lucas asked softly, stepping cautiously into the dimly lit office. Olivia hesitated before nodding slowly, motioning for him to sit. Lucas took the chair across from her desk, a heavy silence settling between them. "I'm sorry," he finally spoke, voice thick with sincerity and remorse. "I didn't mean to imply you had anything but professional intentions. You trusted me, Olivia, and I lashed out unfairly." Olivia met his gaze, eyes shimmering with a pain that reached far deeper than their earlier argument. "Lucas, the truth is—" She hesitated, her voice faltering slightly. "Maybe part of the reason I reacted so strongly is because they were right, at least partly." Lucas stared at her, heart pounding, sensing the delicate weight of her confession. "What do you mean?"
She exhaled slowly as though gathering her courage, vulnerability raw in her gentle voice. "I've spent my entire life building walls, around myself, around my heart. Everyone sees Olivia Hart, the CEO, strong, independent, untouchable. But beneath that, I'm human, Lucas. I'm lonely." Her voice shook softly, fragile with emotion rarely revealed. "When I met you on that rainy night, you treated me like a person. You didn't want anything in return. You didn't see money or status, just someone who needed help. That kindness, it meant more than you'll ever know." Lucas swallowed hard, throat tight with emotion. "Olivia," she shook her head gently, cutting him off. "You don't understand how rare that is for me. People want my time, my money, my connections. Rarely does anyone care about Olivia, the person, not Olivia Hart, the CEO. So maybe they were right to question my judgment, because when I brought you here, it wasn't just about your skill. It was also because you reminded me of what it felt like to be truly seen. And I let that feeling blur boundaries I've spent my life guarding." Lucas felt his chest tighten painfully, deeply moved by her honesty, her bravery in admitting something so personal. He reached forward instinctively, gently placing his hand atop hers, offering comfort, reassurance. "Olivia," he whispered softly, sincerity filling every word. "Your heart, your humanity, that's what makes you strong. It's not weakness. It never was." She looked at him, vulnerability shining deeply in her eyes, tears brimming, reflecting a lifetime of carefully hidden pain. Slowly, her fingers tightened gently around his, accepting the warmth and strength he offered. In that quiet, powerful moment, Lucas understood Olivia in a way he never imagined possible. Beneath her polished surface, behind the powerful CEO, lay a woman who simply wanted what everyone else did: genuine connection, understanding, someone who saw her beyond the titles and expectations. And Lucas knew, more clearly than ever, he wanted to be that person for her. Lucas stood silently in the dim glow of his old garage, the familiar smell of grease and oil filling his lungs, comforting yet bittersweet. Dust particles floated lazily through thin shafts of sunlight piercing the cracked windows, illuminating tools and equipment left untouched since he'd accepted Olivia's offer. The quiet hum of distant traffic was barely audible, a gentle reminder of a simpler, quieter life he'd left behind. Walking slowly through the workshop, his fingers brushed against worn metal surfaces, tracing familiar scratches, dents, and stains, each mark a memory, a story of struggle and triumph. Lucas paused beside the old workbench, the same one his father had built decades ago. He placed his palm flat against the rough wood, feeling an overwhelming sense of nostalgia and loss sweep over him. He remembered clearly the countless late nights spent working tirelessly under the flickering, unreliable lights, desperate to keep the small family business afloat. Those had been hard days, filled with exhaustion and constant worry, but also a kind of purity, a sense of purpose and pride that had driven him through the toughest times.
Now, surrounded by echoes of the past, Lucas felt conflicted. Hart Automotive had given him a glimpse of something extraordinary. Luxury, respect, possibilities he'd never dared imagine. Yet, standing here amid the humble chaos of his former life, he wondered if something essential had gotten lost along the way. He sank down onto the battered stool he'd sat on countless times, staring thoughtfully around the familiar space. What had he traded for his new life? Was he still the same person who'd knelt beside Olivia's car on that rainy night, offering kindness without expectation? His mind drifted to Olivia, her vulnerability and honesty still fresh in his memory. He cared deeply for her, admired her strength and compassion. But was their growing closeness complicating everything? Could he remain true to himself in her polished, sophisticated world without sacrificing the very qualities that drew her to him? Lucas sighed heavily, his gaze drifting toward a faded photograph pinned to the wall, depicting himself and Alex, younger and hopeful, arms around each other's shoulders, smiling through the struggles. That image represented what mattered most: family, authenticity, and resilience. In the silence of the old garage, Lucas knew he stood at a crossroads. Success at Hart Automotive meant everything he'd dreamed of providing for Alex, but if it cost him the core of who he was, the integrity, humility, and simplicity he'd always valued, was it worth it? For the first time, Lucas faced a truth he'd been avoiding. Real success wasn't about luxury or reputation. It was about staying true to himself, honoring the roots that defined him. He could embrace the opportunities Olivia had given him without losing sight of the humble mechanic who'd stopped to help a stranger in need. Resolved, Lucas rose from the stool, feeling steadier, clearer. He'd found his answer among these familiar walls. His roots were not chains holding him back. They were the foundation of everything he would become. Whatever challenges awaited, he would face them with integrity, compassion, and the quiet strength that had guided him from the start. Lucas walked back into Hart Automotive early the next morning, a quiet but powerful sense of determination radiating through him. The gleaming cars, polished surfaces, and busy technicians seemed different now. Not intimidating, but full of possibilities, chances to prove himself without compromising who he truly was. He felt lighter, clearer, the fog of doubt lifted by his realization back at his old garage. As he made his way through the facility, several colleagues glanced his way, some openly curious, others cautious. Lucas ignored the lingering whispers, his focus clear and unwavering. He knew where he belonged, and who he belonged with. He paused briefly by Olivia's office, watching her through the clear glass wall. She sat at her desk, composed and focused, as always, yet he saw beneath that careful mask now, glimpsing the woman beneath the confident CEO, the woman who had shared her vulnerability, her hidden loneliness. His heart quickened, certainty deepening. He wasn't just fighting for a job anymore. He was fighting for her, for them, for the happiness they both deserved. Gathering his courage, Lucas gently knocked on her door, meeting her gaze steadily as she glanced up. Olivia's eyes widened slightly, surprise flickering briefly behind her guarded expression, quickly replaced with cautious curiosity. "Lucas," she greeted softly, voice careful but warm. "You're here early." "I needed to talk to you," Lucas began, stepping inside and gently closing the door behind him. He took a deep breath, voice steady and sincere. "I made a decision last night, about this job and about us." Olivia's eyes flashed momentarily with uncertainty, vulnerability resurfacing. "Lucas, I don't want you making sacrifices you'll regret. I understand if you feel pressured by—" He raised his hand gently, stopping her words. "I'm not here out of obligation, Olivia. I'm here because I realized what matters most. Life isn't about pride or fear or avoiding rumors and criticism. It's about choosing happiness, even if that means fighting for it every step of the way." She stared at him, heart clearly in her eyes, hope cautiously blooming within her gaze. Are you sure? This place? This job? It comes with challenges, Lucas. The scrutiny might not end any time soon. He nodded firmly, stepping closer, sincerity radiating deeply in his voice. I'm prepared for that. Challenges don't scare me. Losing the chance to be here, with you, that's what scares me. I don't want to live with regret. You've given me an opportunity to become something more, to find myself again. I won't walk away from that. Her eyes softened further, emotion glistening in their depths as she whispered softly, almost hesitantly. What about the board, the rumors? Lucas's voice grew stronger, determination steadying his words. Let them talk, we know the truth. You believed in me from the start, Olivia. It's my turn to believe in us. I want to build something meaningful here, not just professionally, but personally too. Slowly, a gentle smile broke across Olivia's face, warmth and relief finally replacing her guarded caution. Lucas, you have no idea how long I've hoped you'd say that. He stepped closer, gently reaching out and taking her hand. Then let's stop worrying about everyone else and start living for ourselves. Together. In that quiet moment, their mutual resolve became clear. A silent agreement passed between them. Whatever lay ahead, challenges, doubts, or obstacles, they would face together, choosing happiness, trusting each other, and building a future rooted not in fear, but in the courage to follow their hearts. Lucas straightened his jacket nervously, feeling the tense anticipation hanging thick in the air of the expansive boardroom. The board members sat quietly around the polished conference table, their skeptical expressions conveying clear doubts about the man standing before them. Olivia offered him a subtle, reassuring nod from her position at the head of the table, silently urging him to begin. Her quiet confidence in him strengthened his resolve, calming his racing heartbeat. Taking a deep, steady breath, Lucas stepped forward, speaking with measured, confident authority. I appreciate you all giving me this opportunity. I understand your concerns about my role here at Hart Automotive, but today I want to show you exactly why Olivia brought me onto this team. He saw Marcus watching carefully from the far end of the table, skepticism evident on his face, arms folded tightly across his chest. Lucas continued, determined to prove himself to every doubter in the room. Over the last few weeks, I've studied our systems closely, Lucas explained clearly, voice steady. Hart Automotive is renowned for innovation, exclusivity, luxury. But what if we took things further? What if we led the industry not just in luxury and performance, but also sustainability? Whispers stirred among the board members, curiosity gradually replacing skepticism. Lucas pressed on, encouraged by their interest. I'm proposing the launch of a new project, a hybrid luxury line. It combines our trademark performance with cutting-edge green technology, reducing emissions without sacrificing elegance or power. Our customers expect exclusivity. Let's offer them a future they can feel proud to invest in. Gerald Whitmore leaned forward, his sharp eyes narrowing thoughtfully. That's ambitious, Mr. Bennett. What makes you think you can successfully implement something of this magnitude? Lucas met Gerald's gaze directly, unwavering confidence in his voice. Because innovation is exactly why Olivia hired me. My expertise isn't just in mechanics, it's in creative problem-solving. I'm from a small shop, yes, but that taught me to adapt, to innovate with limited resources. Imagine what I can achieve here with Hart Automotive's resources behind me. A ripple of genuine interest spread around the table. Olivia's eyes shone with pride, subtle satisfaction curving her lips. Marcus, still skeptical but clearly impressed by Lucas's courage, remained silent. You have detailed plans for this? Gerald asked, cautiously intrigued. Lucas nodded confidently, placing documents neatly before each board member. Fully developed proposals, projected costs, timelines, and anticipated returns. I promise you, this isn't just an idea. It's a future we can achieve together. The board members quietly reviewed his proposals, murmuring approval as they began to recognize the depth and seriousness of Lucas's vision. Gradually, skepticism gave way to admiration, even excitement. Lucas felt relief sweep through him, knowing he'd successfully shifted their perception, not just about him, but about what Hart Automotive could accomplish. Gerald finally leaned back, nodding thoughtfully, a rare smile tugging gently at his lips. "This is impressive, Mr. Bennett. Very impressive indeed." Lucas glanced toward Olivia, their eyes locking in a moment of quiet triumph. She nodded softly, her expression a clear reflection of pride, relief, and gratitude. In that powerful instant, Lucas felt something profound shift. He hadn't just earned the board's trust. He'd affirmed Olivia's faith in him. His past, present, and future suddenly felt aligned, a thrilling clarity settling deep inside him. Hart Automotive was exactly where he belonged, and together they could achieve something extraordinary. Lucas stood at the large windows overlooking the twinkling city lights below, his heart still pounding from his presentation earlier that day. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, knowing he had finally earned the board's respect and silenced the doubts that had shadowed him since his arrival at Hart Automotive. Yet, amidst that relief, another emotion tugged persistently at his heart, something deeper, more powerful. The quiet sound of footsteps approached softly behind him, and he turned slowly to see Olivia standing just a few feet away, eyes warm and full of quiet pride. She was beautiful, her usually poised expression softened by a vulnerability she rarely revealed to anyone else. "You were incredible today," Olivia said gently, stepping closer, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "I've never seen the board so convinced, so inspired." Lucas smiled softly, heart racing slightly as she moved nearer. "I meant every word, Olivia. I wasn't just fighting for the project. I was fighting for you, us, and everything we've started building together." Her eyes softened further, emotion shimmering clearly in their depths. "Lucas, this company has been my entire world for so long. I never imagined anyone could make me see there's more to life than work. Until I met you." His breath caught slightly, deeply touched by her openness, her willingness to let him in. He stepped forward gently, bridging the space between them. "Olivia, since the moment we met on that rainy road, everything changed. I didn't just find a job that night. I found someone who makes every struggle worth facing, someone I genuinely can't imagine living without." She exhaled softly, eyes glistening with tears she fought to keep from falling. "I've spent my life afraid of opening up, afraid of letting someone in. But with you, Lucas, it feels effortless, right? You're the only one who's seen through my walls, who understands exactly who I am." He reached out, gently taking her hands into his, holding them tenderly as he spoke, voice filled with certainty and devotion. "Olivia, you deserve someone who sees every part of you, your strength, your fears, your hopes. I want to be that person, not just now, not just in the quiet moments we steal from our professional lives, but always." Olivia smiled, her tears finally spilling gently down her cheeks, illuminated softly by the distant city lights. "I love you, Lucas, more than I ever thought possible." Lucas felt warmth flood his heart, emotions overwhelming him as he pulled her closer, his arms encircling her in a protective embrace. "I love you too, Olivia, completely. And no matter what challenges we face them together." Their eyes locked, hearts beating fiercely as they finally leaned toward each other, their lips meeting softly, tenderly, sealing the promise of everything that lay ahead. In that perfect, quiet moment, all doubts faded, leaving only the powerful certainty of their love, stronger now than any fear or obstacle they'd faced. Lucas knew in his heart they were ready to build their future, together, united not just by ambition and dreams, but by a love neither had expected, yet neither could now imagine living without. Lucas stood anxiously near the doorway of the bustling Hart Automotive lobby, glancing impatiently at his phone every few seconds. His heart beat rapidly, anticipation mingling with nerves, knowing Alex would be arriving any moment. For Lucas, today represented everything he had fought for, the chance to see his younger brother's dreams finally coming true. Just then, The lobby doors slid open smoothly, and Alex stepped inside, eyes bright with nervous excitement. Lucas moved forward immediately, pulling his brother into a firm embrace, feeling an overwhelming surge of pride fill his chest. "You ready for this?" Lucas asked softly, stepping back and studying Alex carefully. He saw determination and hope mirrored in his brother's expression. Alex took a deep breath, nodding firmly, though his voice trembled slightly. "Ready as I'll ever be." Together they walked into Olivia's spacious, elegant office. Olivia stood to greet them warmly, her gentle smile instantly easing some of Alex's tension. Lucas felt his admiration for her deepen further. She knew exactly how important today was, not just to Alex, but to Lucas as well. "Alex, it's good to see you again," Olivia greeted kindly, gesturing for them both to sit. She reached across her desk, handing Alex an envelope embossed with the Hart Automotive logo. Her voice was steady, warm, carrying the quiet assurance of good news. "I wanted to tell you personally, congratulations, you've earned a full scholarship sponsored by Hart Automotive. You impressed everyone, Alex. You earned this." Alex's eyes widened sharply, breath catching as he slowly opened the envelope, fingers shaking slightly. Lucas watched quietly, his throat tightening with emotion. As Alex carefully read the scholarship details, disbelief slowly transforming into sheer joy. "Is this real?" Alex whispered softly, tears already gathering in his eyes. I got it?" Olivia nodded gently, her own eyes shining with quiet pride. "Yes, Alex. You deserve every bit of this. Your dedication and potential stood out clearly. We're proud to support you." Alex turned toward Lucas, tears now spilling openly down his cheeks, joy and relief evident on his face. "Lucas, we did it. You kept your promise. You said we'd get through it. You said we'd make it." Lucas reached out, gripping Alex's shoulder firmly, his voice thick with emotion. "You earned this, Alex. Every late night, every sacrifice, it was all worth it." Alex nodded rapidly, voice choked with gratitude and pride. "Thank you, Lucas, for never giving up on me, for everything you've done. I couldn't have done this without you." Olivia quietly watched the brothers, moved deeply by the powerful moment between them. She knew exactly what this scholarship meant to Lucas, not just as Alex's opportunity, but as the fulfillment of a promise Lucas had made years ago through struggle and hardship. Lucas looked toward Olivia, gratitude shining deeply in his eyes. "Thank you, Olivia. This means everything. You've changed both our lives." Olivia smiled softly, voice gentle but deeply sincere. "You changed mine first. I'm honored to help make your dreams a reality." As Lucas watched Alex hold the envelope tightly, pride and happiness radiating from him, Lucas realized that everything they'd endured had led to this moment. All the uncertainty, the fears, the struggles, it had all been worth it to see Alex finally achieve the future he'd always dreamed of. The bright morning sun glistened across the sleek, modern building of Hart Automotive's brand-new Innovation Center. A gentle breeze fluttered through the large white banners bearing the company logo, while sleek luxury vehicles lined the entrance, gleaming under the sunlight, symbolizing the perfect fusion of tradition and innovation. Lucas stood beside Olivia at the front steps, his heart racing with excitement and pride as they faced a crowd buzzing with anticipation. Cameras flashed around them, capturing every moment, as Olivia stepped confidently forward to address the assembled guests. Lucas watched her with admiration, the memory of the first night he'd met her on a rainy roadside, seeming both impossibly distant and yet vividly present. "Today," Olivia began, her voice clear and confident, "marks not just a new chapter for Hart Automotive, but for the automotive industry itself. This center represents innovation, creativity, and the strength of what happens when we choose collaboration over competition." She turned slightly, her eyes meeting Lucas's with warmth and sincerity. "When I first envisioned this project, I imagined it only as a distant possibility. It was Lucas Bennett who showed me that true innovation requires courage. The courage to see beyond convention, to believe in new ideas, and, most importantly, to believe in each other. Lucas's chest tightened with emotion as Olivia gestured for him to join her. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, feeling both humbled and empowered by her trust. He faced the crowd, his voice steady, despite the overwhelming weight of the moment. "I spent most of my life believing innovation meant working alone, fighting for survival," Lucas began earnestly. "Olivia taught me that true innovation happens through teamwork, trust, and the bravery to take risks. This center is proof of that. It's a dream realized, but also a promise that we will keep moving forward together." Olivia smiled softly, stepping closer to him, their unified presence strong and inspiring. The crowd erupted in applause, clearly moved by their passion, sincerity, and the power of their shared vision. Together, Lucas and Olivia stepped toward the ceremonial ribbon, holding a pair of oversized silver scissors. Their hands brushed gently, eyes locking briefly, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, a recognition of everything they'd endured, overcome, and achieved together. With a decisive snip, the ribbon fell, signaling the official opening. Cheers rose enthusiastically from the crowd, the sound powerful and affirming. Lucas felt Olivia squeeze his hand gently, their fingers intertwining naturally as the cameras captured the moment, a subtle but undeniable gesture of unity and strength. As guests began exploring the center, marveling at state-of-the-art technology and groundbreaking designs, Lucas quietly watched Olivia, pride swelling within him. They had built more than a center. They had built trust, respect, and something deeper neither had imagined possible. Olivia glanced over, catching Lucas's gaze, her smile radiant, eyes reflecting joy, fulfillment, and deep gratitude. In that moment, surrounded by the excitement of possibility and innovation, Lucas knew clearly that the Innovation Center was far more than a building. It was a testament to their journey, their struggles, their triumphs, and most importantly, their future together. In the days following the grand opening, Lucas moved confidently through the bustling halls of the new Innovation Center, finally feeling truly at home within the gleaming walls and sleek technology. He had earned his place, not through connections or wealth, but through sheer determination, skill, and authenticity. Yet, as Lucas looked around the vibrant workspace, he realized it was no longer just about his own success. It was about something far greater. He noticed it first among the technicians, engineers, and designers, men and women from vastly different backgrounds, seamlessly working side by side, exchanging ideas, breaking down barriers that had once seemed impenetrable. Lucas's presence at Hart Automotive had subtly shifted something fundamental, proving that passion and determination could stand equal to wealth and privilege. One afternoon, as he guided a group of interns through the advanced mechanics lab, Lucas paused, struck by a sudden realization. These young faces, eager and hopeful, reminded him vividly of his own struggles. They represented everything he'd fought for, the idea that talent should never be confined by circumstance. Olivia approached quietly, noticing his thoughtful expression, a gentle curiosity in her eyes. "What are you thinking about?" Lucas smiled softly, meeting her gaze warmly. "Just how much this means. Not just for me, but for them." He gestured subtly toward the interns. "We built something important here, Olivia. A place where ability matters more than background. It's not just innovation in technology, it's innovation in how we value people." She nodded thoughtfully, her voice gentle yet deeply sincere. "That's exactly what I hoped for when I brought you here, Lucas. I always believed Hart Automotive could stand for something more, something inclusive, meaningful. You helped turn that vision into reality." Lucas turned fully toward her, conviction strong in his voice. "It's only the beginning. This center represents a promise to continue fighting for opportunity, fairness, and real collaboration. No more barriers, no more divisions. Just people, united by passion, talent, and determination." Olivia reached out, taking his hand gently, her touch grounding him firmly in the moment. "I can't imagine a better partner to lead that charge," she murmured softly. "Your heart is exactly what this place needed." Lucas squeezed her hand tenderly, heart swelling with quiet pride and gratitude. "You believed in me when no one else did. This is our chance to believe in others, to open doors and break down walls, to build something lasting." Around them, the energy of collaboration buzzed, vibrant and full of possibility. Lucas felt deeply inspired, knowing this was exactly what he'd fought for. Not just personal success, but meaningful change, a legacy built on unity, integrity, and genuine passion. As Olivia leaned gently against him, their presence a powerful testament to partnership and promise, Lucas knew clearly they were on the edge of something transformative. Hart Automotive was no longer just a business. It was a place of innovation, equality, and dreams fulfilled, where every individual, regardless of background, had the chance to thrive. Together, they stood ready to face the future, partners not just in business, but in life, bound by a shared vision, a powerful promise to continue building bridges, inspiring others, and proving that real success belonged to those who fought for it, together. The evening sky was painted with streaks of gold and purple, the soft glow casting a warm, nostalgic haze across the quiet road. Lucas parked his truck alongside the familiar stretch of pavement, stepping out slowly, heart already stirring with memories. Olivia joined him, her eyes softly scanning the area, recognizing the spot immediately, the place where their paths had first crossed beneath the relentless rain. They stood quietly side by side, breathing in the peaceful stillness. Lucas's gaze traced the stretch of road, vividly remembering the sound of rain hammering against his truck, the moment he'd first seen her stranded by the roadside, vulnerable yet dignified. He smiled softly to himself, marveling at how a seemingly ordinary night had changed both of their lives forever. "Feels strange, doesn't it?" Olivia said gently, breaking the silence, her voice thoughtful and tinged with quiet emotion. "To be back here, where everything started." Lucas nodded slowly, voice warm and sincere. "I never imagined stopping to help someone fix a flat tire would lead to all this, to finding you, changing both our lives." Olivia turned toward him, her eyes shimmering with emotion, reflecting both gratitude and deep affection. "You didn't just change a tire, Lucas. You showed me kindness in a moment when I desperately needed it. You reminded me that genuine humanity still existed. That single act, it saved me in more ways than one." Lucas exhaled gently, moved deeply by her words, the warmth of the setting sun catching gently in her eyes. "You saved me too, Olivia. You gave me purpose again, showed me there was more to life than just surviving day to day." She stepped closer, her gaze steady, holding his with quiet intensity. "It's incredible, isn't it? A moment that felt so small at the time ended up being the most important turning point in our lives." Lucas took her hand gently, fingers intertwining naturally, heart swelling with gratitude and quiet wonder. "It proves that even the simplest acts matter. Every kindness, every decision, they ripple through our lives, shaping who we become." Olivia squeezed his hand softly, tears glistening subtly in her eyes. "I never thought I'd be grateful for a flat tire, Lucas, but that night changed everything." He chuckled softly, voice warm and tender. "Neither did I. But it wasn't just the tire. It was meeting you, the way you trusted me, and everything we built afterward." Together they stood quietly, watching the fading sunset color the sky in shades of soft lavender and fiery orange. In that peaceful moment, Lucas felt an overwhelming sense of clarity and gratitude. The hardships they'd faced, the doubts they'd overcome, all had led them right back here, to this roadside, to each other. As darkness slowly enveloped the quiet road, Lucas turned fully towards Olivia, heart steady and certain. I wouldn't change a single thing, not the struggles, not the uncertainty, none of it, because it all brought me here, to you." Olivia smiled softly, gently touching his face, warmth radiating deeply in her eyes. "Me neither, Lucas. Not one single thing." In that perfect, quiet moment, beneath the stars just beginning to appear above, Lucas and Olivia understood completely. Their journey, with all its twists and turns, had led exactly where it was meant to love, trust, and the powerful realization that even the simplest kindness could change lives forever. Lucas stood beside Olivia, the polished lobby of Hart Automotive bathed in warm, welcoming light, cameras ready to capture their heartfelt message. He felt a gentle surge of nerves, but Olivia's presence steadied him, her calm confidence a quiet reassurance that they were exactly where they needed to be. Together, they faced the camera, their voices steady, sincere, filled with quiet passion. Lucas began, warmth filling his tone, as he spoke directly to those watching. "Sometimes we underestimate the power of a single act of kindness. We convince ourselves that small gestures don't matter, that a simple helping hand or a moment of compassion can't really change someone's life." Olivia continued smoothly, sincerity glowing brightly in her eyes. "But the truth is, every kindness, no matter how small, creates ripples that travel further than we ever realize. When Lucas stopped to help me on that rainy night, neither of us imagined how significantly our lives would change." Lucas smiled softly, his voice gentle yet filled with powerful conviction. "I thought I was simply fixing a flat tire, but in reality, that single moment of kindness opened doors, built trust, and created a connection neither of us anticipated. It taught me that kindness isn't just something you do, it's something you become." Olivia nodded gently, her voice warm with quiet emotion. "That moment taught me that no matter who you are or where you come from, kindness has the power to bridge any gap, to break down barriers, erase fear, and remind us of our shared humanity." Lucas's voice deepened with quiet intensity, addressing the viewers earnestly. "Our journey wasn't always easy. There were obstacles, doubts, even fears. But every step forward reminded us how much stronger we are together, how powerful trust and compassion truly are." Olivia reached out, gently taking Lucas's hand, their unity a tangible reflection of their message. "We wanted to share our story because we believe deeply in the power of kindness, of connection, and hope. We believe that every single one of you watching can make a difference, simply by choosing to be kind." Lucas squeezed her hand gently, emotion thickening his voice slightly. "Life isn't always straightforward. It tests us, challenges us. But kindness is the compass that leads us forward. It changed our lives completely, and we know it can change yours, too." They stepped slightly closer, addressing their viewers warmly, genuinely. Olivia's voice softened, inviting heartfelt interaction. "So we leave you with this thought. Has an act of kindness ever transformed your life? Has someone's compassion or generosity ever opened a door or changed your path in ways you never expected?" Lucas smiled warmly, concluding gently yet passionately, "Share your stories with us. Remind us all how powerful, life-changing, and deeply meaningful kindness can truly be. Because in the end, kindness is more than just a gesture. It's a way of life." The camera slowly faded, capturing the genuine warmth radiating from Lucas and Olivia, their united message echoing powerfully. Every act of kindness matters, every compassion has purpose, and hope always has a place in the hearts of those willing to believe in the best of humanity.